Forget the politicians you see on TV or the CEOs on magazine covers. The real, lasting power in Canada is often held by a small group of families whose wealth is older than the country's modern identity. They control huge pieces of the economy, from the food you buy to the news you read. For over 100 years, these 10 families have quietly commanded global business empires, their legacies cemented in steel, stone, and stock certificates. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to explore the historical roots of their fortunes and reveal the massive empires they still control. Our countdown begins with a name that's basically synonymous with Canada itself: Molson. The Molson family story isn't just about wealth. It's about a legacy that's been brewing for over 200 years. It all started way back in 1786. That's a full 81 years before Confederation, when a young English immigrant named John Molson founded a brewery on the banks of the St. Lawrence River in Montreal. This wasn't just any business. It was the birth of Canada's oldest brewery. John Molson was more than a brewer. He was a visionary who knew that to build something that lasts, you have to invest in the world around you. He didn't just sell beer. He built steamships that changed river transport, helped fund Montreal's first public hospital, and owned Canada's very first railway. That mindset, diversify and serve your community, became the family's golden rule. While the brewery was always the heart of the business, the Molsons branched out, becoming giants of industry and finance. They were involved in banking, real estate, and shipping, embedding their influence deep into the economic fabric of Quebec and the entire nation. Today, the Molson legacy lives on through the Molson Coors Beverage Company, a global giant formed after a 2005 merger, but their impact goes way beyond beer. The Molson name is welded to Canada's national sport, hockey. The family has owned stakes in the Montreal Canadiens for generations, making them cultural custodians of one of Canada's most beloved institutions. And they continue to shape the country through philanthropy, with the Molson Foundation donating millions to healthcare, education, and the arts. From a single brewery on a riverbank to a global brand and a cultural dynasty, the Molsons are the quintessential old money family whose influence has flowed through Canadian life for generations. Coming in at number 9 is a family whose journey is a more modern yet equally powerful version of the Canadian dream: the Saputos. Their fortune doesn't stretch back to the 18th century, but their story shows the incredible success that can be built and sustained through relentless hard work. The Saputo dynasty began in 1954, when master cheesemaker Lino Saputo Sr. arrived in Montreal from Sicily. With only $500 and a bicycle for deliveries, the family started a small cheese-making business. They focused on the city's growing Italian community, making fresh mozzarella and ricotta with an absolute commitment to quality. That dedication was the foundation for an empire. The company grew steadily, and under the leadership of Lino's son, Lino Saputo Jr., it transformed into a publicly traded global dairy powerhouse. How did they do it? Strategic acquisitions. Saputo Inc. started buying up smaller dairies across Canada, consolidating the market and building a national distribution network. They scooped up well-known brands like Armstrong and Dairyland, making their products a staple in Canadian homes. Today, Saputo Inc. is one of the top 10 dairy processors in the world, with a major presence in the US, Australia, Argentina, and the UK. They produce a massive range of dairy products, and the family, now in its 3rd generation of leadership, still holds a controlling stake. Their impact on Canada's dairy industry is immense. Beyond the boardroom, the Saputos are major philanthropists, especially in Montreal. They've made huge donations to healthcare, and their name is on the Saputo Stadium, home to the CF Montreal soccer team. The Saputos prove that old money isn't just about inherited land or ancient banks. It can be built from scratch and passed down with a sense of duty and community. At number 8, we find a family whose name is probably in your freezer right now, the McCains. From the small rural town of Florenceville, New Brunswick, the McCain family built a global empire on a very simple yet brilliant idea: the frozen French fry. Their story is a masterclass in innovation and global expansion. In 1957, brothers Harrison and Wallace McCain, along with their siblings Robert and Andrew, founded McCain Foods. They saw a growing demand for convenient restaurant-quality food that families could make at home. They bet big on a new technology, freezing, and aimed it at the humble potato. It was a gamble that paid off, big time. McCain Foods quickly became the world's largest producer of frozen French fries, a title it still holds today. The company's success was fueled by an aggressive global strategy. The McCain brothers knew their product had universal appeal, and they expanded into international markets with incredible speed. They opened plants in the UK in the 60s, then Australia, the US, and Europe. Today, McCain products are sold in over 160 countries. But the family's journey wasn't all smooth sailing. A famous feud between Harrison and Wallace in the 1990s over who would succeed them threatened to tear the family and the business apart. The conflict was eventually resolved, but it was a tough lesson in the challenges of running a family dynasty. Despite this, the McCain family has kept control of the company, which remains privately held. This allows them to focus on long-term growth without the pressure of public markets. Their influence is huge, especially in rural communities where they are major employers. And they've been major philanthropists, particularly in their home province of New Brunswick. The McCain dynasty shows how a single great idea, executed with global ambition, can create a fortune that shapes an entire industry for generations. Our 7th family is one of the oldest and most discreet financial dynasties in Canada, the Richardsons. You may not know their name, and that's just how they like it. Their story begins on the vast prairies of Western Canada, long before the oil booms. In 1857, James Richardson, an Irish immigrant, started a small grain trading business in Kingston, Ontario. He'd buy grain from local farmers and ship it east. It was a simple business built on trust and a sharp understanding of agricultural markets. That one-man operation, James Richardson and Sons, would grow into one of the most powerful private companies in the country. As Canada pushed west in the late 19th century, so did the Richardson Empire. The family became pioneers in the Canadian grain industry, building a network of elevators across the prairies and helping establish the Winnipeg Grain Exchange. For generations, the Richardson name has been synonymous with grain. But like all lasting old money families, the Richardsons knew they had to diversify. While agriculture is still their core business, they've expanded into a wide range of other sectors. Their holding company has major interests in financial services through Richardson Wealth, oil and gas, and commercial real estate. The entire empire is still privately owned and controlled by the family, now in its 6th generation. They operate quietly, avoiding the media and focusing on steady long-term growth. Their influence is felt most deeply in Winnipeg, where they have been a central pillar of the city's economic and civic life for over a century, supporting everything from the arts to healthcare. The Richardson family is the classic example of old money. Build a fortune in a core industry, diversify wisely, and quietly shape the economy from behind the scenes. At number 6, we have a family whose name once dominated Canadian retail, the Morgans. While they no longer control a vast commercial empire, their story is a key chapter in Canadian business history. The dynasty began in 1845 when Henry Morgan, a Scottish immigrant, co-founded a small dry goods store in Montreal. This humble shop eventually grew into Morgan's, Canada's first ever department store. Henry was an innovator, bringing the idea of a grand, luxurious, multi-department store to Canada. Morgan's became a Montreal institution, a symbol of elegance and quality. For generations, the family built a retail and real estate empire that was the envy of the nation. They were true Montreal high society, with grand estates and private railway cars. Their flagship store on St. Catherine Street was a landmark, and the family even built some of Canada's first suburban shopping malls. But the retail world changed. Facing intense competition, the Morgan family made a huge decision in 1960. They sold their entire chain of department stores to their biggest rival, the Hudson's Bay Company. The sale brought the family a fortune in cash and a massive block of Hudson's Bay shares, making them one of the largest shareholders in their former competitor. This was the end of the Morgan retail era, but not their wealth. The money went into a family trust that managed extensive real estate holdings. However, later generations struggled to manage this fortune, and the family's business presence faded. Still, the Morgan legacy lives on through their philanthropy, like the land donated to McGill University for the Morgan Arboretum. Their story is a powerful reminder that dynastic wealth isn't always permanent, and that the ability to adapt is key. These families built their fortunes by seeing the future, whether in beer, frozen food, or the grain that would feed a nation. They understood the Canadian economy because they helped build it. We're only halfway through, and the empires get even bigger and more influential from here. If you're fascinated by the hidden forces that shape our world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the rest of our countdown. Entering our top 5 is a family whose power in one region is so concentrated. They're often described as modern-day feudal lords, the Irvings of New Brunswick. The Irving Empire is a massive, sprawling web of companies that touches almost every part of the economy in Atlantic Canada. The story starts with Kenneth Collin, or K.C. Irving, a driven and famously frugal entrepreneur. Born in 1899, K.C. started with a small car dealership and gas station and built his empire with a simple, powerful strategy: control every single link in the supply chain. If he sold cars, he wanted to sell the gas. If he sold gas, he needed the oil refinery. To get oil to the refinery, he needed ships and trucks. To build those assets, he needed a shipyard and construction companies. This relentless drive for vertical integration created a vast and complex empire. The family's holdings were eventually split among K.C.'s 3 sons. One branch, led by Arthur Irving, controls Irving Oil, which owns Canada's largest refinery and over 900 gas stations. Another, under James J. K. Irving, controls J.D. Irving Limited, a monster conglomerate involved in forestry, paper products, shipbuilding, transportation, and food. Until recently, a third branch of the family controlled the media, owning almost all of New Brunswick's major English-language newspapers. This incredible concentration of corporate and media power in one family is unlike almost anywhere else in the developed world. The Irvings are the largest private sector employer in New Brunswick and one of the biggest landowners in the region. Their influence is everywhere. This dominance hasn't come without controversy. The family has faced criticism over its business practices, environmental impact, and powerful influence over provincial politics. Yet they are also major philanthropists, giving back millions to education and healthcare in the region. The Irvings are a dynasty of immense, concentrated power, a family that has shaped an entire region through sheer will. At number 4, we find a family whose name brings to mind both immense wealth and Shakespearean tragedy, the Bronfmans. Their rise from poverty to the top of global business is one of the most dramatic stories in Canadian corporate history. The story begins with Samuel Bronfman, who came to Canada from Russia in the late 19th century. His big break came during Prohibition in the United States. While alcohol was banned south of the border, it was legal to produce and export in Canada. Samuel Bronfman legally built his company Seagram by selling whiskey to American distributors who then smuggled it across the border. When Prohibition ended, Seagram was perfectly positioned. Bronfman had a huge stockpile of aged, high-quality whiskey, while American distillers were just starting up again. Seagram quickly dominated the North American market, becoming the largest distiller of alcoholic beverages in the world. Brands like Crown Royal and Chivas Regal became global icons, and the Bronfman family became Canadian royalty. But then came the third generation. Samuel's grandson, Edgar Jr., made an audacious move in the 1990s. He orchestrated the sale of Seagram's massively profitable beverage empire to go all in on Hollywood, acquiring major entertainment companies like MCA and Universal. It turned out to be a catastrophic miscalculation. The family lost billions as the entertainment ventures soured, and the Seagram company, the foundation of their fortune, was sold off and dismantled. Despite this incredible loss, the Bronfman family remains extremely wealthy through diversified investments in real estate, technology, and finance. Their legacy is complex. They have been among Canada's greatest philanthropists, making huge contributions to universities, hospitals, and the global Jewish community. The Bronfman story is a powerful lesson in how a fortune built over a lifetime can be risked in a generation, and how a family's legacy can be defined as much by its losses as its victories. Coming in at number 3 is a family that truly embodies the quiet political power of old money, the Desmarais family. You might not know their name as well as others on this list, but their influence radiates from Montreal to the highest levels of Canadian and international business and politics. The architect of this dynasty was Paul Desmarais Sr., who started by turning around his family's struggling bus company in the 1950s. Through a series of brilliant deals, he gained control of the Power Corporation of Canada in 1968 and transformed it into a massive financial services conglomerate. The Desmarais strategy was to acquire controlling stakes in large, stable companies, especially in insurance and investment. Through Power Corporation, the family controls some of Canada's biggest financial institutions, including Great-West Lifeco and IGM Financial. More recently, they've become major players in fintech, holding a significant stake in the popular investment platform Wealthsimple. But what really sets the Desmarais family apart is their deep and lasting political connections. Paul Desmarais Sr. was a close friend and advisor to numerous Canadian prime ministers, including Pierre Trudeau, Brian Mulroney, and Paul Martin. His son, André, is married to former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien's daughter. These relationships have placed the family at the center of Canadian public life for decades, earning them both admiration and scrutiny. Now led by the third generation, the family maintains tight control over their empire. They are major patrons of the arts and education, and their influence shows no sign of fading. The Desmarais family proves how immense wealth, combined with strategic political networking, can create a dynasty whose power is both far-reaching and incredibly durable. At number 2, we have a family whose empire touches the lives of nearly every Canadian, every single day, the Westons. From the bread on your table to the groceries in your cart and the products in your medicine cabinet, the Weston family's influence on Canadian retail is simply inescapable. The dynasty started in 1882 when George Weston, a former baker's apprentice, bought a bread route in Toronto. He soon opened his own bakery, George Weston Limited. His son, W. Garfield Weston, took that ambition and went global, acquiring bakeries and grocery stores across Canada, the US and the UK. But it was the third generation, led by W. Galen Weston, who cemented the family's dominance. Galen took control of Loblaw Companies, a struggling grocery chain the family owned, and transformed it into the largest food retailer in the country. Through clever marketing, innovative store brands like President's Choice and No Name, and buying up competitors, Loblaws became the undisputed king of Canadian grocery. The empire grew even larger with the acquisition of the Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy chain. For decades, the Westons also owned iconic luxury department stores like Holt Renfrew in Canada and Selfridges in the UK, which they sold in 2021. The family's main holding company, George Weston Limited, and their private family office manage their vast portfolio. Now, the fourth generation, led by Galen G. Weston, has taken the public lead, steering the family's retail empire. Like the other families on this list, the Westons are major philanthropists, making huge donations to healthcare, education, and the arts. They have shown an incredible ability to adapt and grow over 4 generations, turning a single bakery into one of the most powerful and pervasive commercial dynasties in the nation. And now we've reached the top of our list. At number 1, with a staggering fortune and an almost invisible public profile, is the Thompson family. They are, by a wide margin, the richest family in Canada, and their story is the ultimate example of old money power and discretion. The Thompson dynasty was founded by Roy Thompson, the son of a Toronto barber. His beginnings were humble, but his ambition was limitless. In 1931, in the depths of the Great Depression, he bought a small radio station in North Bay, Ontario. Soon after, he bought a small newspaper. From these small towns, Roy Thompson began to build a media empire with a simple strategy: buy small, often struggling newspapers and run them with ruthless efficiency. By the 1950s, he had a vast network of newspapers and had expanded to the UK, acquiring major publications like the Sunday Times. His success was so immense that in 1964 he was granted a hereditary British peerage, becoming Roy Thompson, 1st Baron Thompson of Fleet. His son, Kenneth, inherited the title and the business, but his real passion was art, not newspapers. Kenneth made a brilliant and pivotal move. He shifted the family's focus away from the declining newspaper business and into the lucrative world of specialized information and financial data. He oversaw the acquisition of Reuters in 2008, creating the global information giant Thomson Reuters. Today, the family's fortune is managed through their private holding company, Woodbridge. This company holds their controlling stake in Thomson Reuters, the crown jewel, but also has investments in Bell Canada and owns the Globe and Mail, Canada's most influential national newspaper. The family is now led by the 3rd generation, David Thompson, who is known to be even more reclusive and private than his father. The family's influence is exercised quietly through their control of major media outlets and their immense financial power. They are also among the country's greatest philanthropists, with a special focus on the arts. Kenneth Thompson's spectacular personal art collection was donated to the Art Gallery of Ontario. The Thompson family represents the absolute pinnacle of old money in Canada, a dynasty built from scratch, transformed by strategic genius, and now managed with a level of privacy that makes their immense power all the more formidable. From the breweries of Montreal to the oil fields of the East Coast and the financial data hubs of the world, the stories of these 10 families are truly woven into the fabric of Canada. Their journeys often follow a similar path: build a fortune in a core industry, diversify into global markets, and secure the legacy through careful planning and philanthropy. They are the quiet owners, the hidden architects of the Canadian economy. They have funded political parties, built our cultural institutions, and employed generations of Canadians. While their names might be on our university halls and hospital wings, their real influence often stays just out of sight, wielded in boardrooms and private family offices. As Canada keeps evolving, the enduring power of these old money dynasties is a testament to the lasting impact of generational wealth. Their fortunes were built on the industries of the past, but their eyes have always been fixed on the future, making sure that their influence, just like their wealth, will be passed down for generations to come. The legacy of these families isn't just in the companies they built, but in the nation they helped to shape.